and welcome to Culinary Skills for School Meals. My name is Kathy Powers, and joining me today as we talk about sunny side up hot breakfast ideas is Chef Samantha Gasparo. Welcome back to those of you who have been with us before. And if this is your first webinar with us, I have a few housekeeping items. During the webinar, all attendees will be muted. However, we love your questions, comments, thoughts. So if at any time you have questions during my discussion or during the demonstration, please type them into the question box and we'll try to answer them. We're also going to try and leave time at the end for questions as well. But we love hearing from you. If at any time you have technical issues, please access the help screen at the top of the attendee control panel. The handout, which includes the recipes, is available under the Handout tab in your attendee control panel. All of the recipes that we demonstrate or talk about today are also available at healthyschoolrecipes.com. And you'll receive your certificate of attendance in an automated email some point this afternoon. Great. This is our third webinar in a year of virtual culinary training. We're looking at breakfast today in preparation for National Breakfast Week. March's webinar will also focus on breakfast with grab-and-go breakfast. And then we'll continue throughout the year with webinars in April, May, September, October, and November. So we hope that you join us throughout this year. So let's get started with today's webinar. The objectives for today's webinar are after this training, you'll be able to develop the culinary skills necessary for school food preparation. You'll apply the basics of breakfast food preparation, and you'll list general nutrition concepts that relate to school meals, such as the importance of breakfast. After this brief introduction, I'm going to dive into nutrition insights. Then we'll go to Chef Sam for the first recipe demonstration. It'll come back to me for more nutrition insights, and then back to Chef Sam for a recipe. We'll wrap it up then with key takeaways, question and answer and discussion, and thoughts about how you can incorporate these concepts into your school breakfast program. So we love to begin with a poll question. This helps you engage a little bit with us. So we're going to launch the first poll question. We want to know, how many eggs does the average American eat per year? Do you think it's about 124, 216, 277, or 363? What do you think? Usually we give you about 45 seconds to answer the poll question. You guys are doing pretty good. Most of you have answered the poll, so we'll close the poll. And the majority of you are just shy of the correct answer. 42% of you said 216, where the correct answer is 277. And then 13% of you said 124. The average per capita consumption of eggs in 2022 was 277 per person. The highest per capita consumption occurred in 1945, when we were consuming about 400 eggs per person. You see that in the last couple of years, the last 2 or 3 years, we've had a slight dip in the per capita egg consumption. And this is related to the avian flu, the bird flu that we saw really interfere with our egg production just after the pandemic. And some of you might remember that the cost of eggs really went up significantly. That said, I want to reiterate that eggs are really an affordable protein. When you think about what you pay for a dozen, even at home, if you're paying $2 a dozen, maybe $2.40 a dozen, that is only 20 cents per egg. And in school nutrition, one large egg is 2 MMAs. So that's only 10 cents per MMA. So eggs are really a very affordable protein. So let's dive into the content for today about breakfast. And I really want to focus in my segment, my first segment, why breakfast is so important in school nutrition. We know that about 15.5 million children participate in breakfast across the country. We also know that breakfast participation is increasing. We see that it's increased post-pandemic. However, despite these increases, we know that school breakfast programs remain underutilized. Actually, only about 52% of the students that participate in lunch also participate in breakfast. So what I want to say with that is that this is somewhat of a missed opportunity. And it's a missed opportunity for a number of different reasons, mostly centered around the benefit that breakfast has for our students. But I also want to reiterate the importance of breakfast for a school nutrition operation. We know that participation rules, and the more participation you have in your school meal program, the more income you're going to bring in. That's for lunch, but also for breakfast. So if we can increase participation at breakfast, that just means simply we're going to have more income into our operations that will give us more resources to do more for the students. But the focus of today really is the importance of breakfast for our students. Many of you know that for some, this is maybe one of the few meals that our students are going to get. They might not have had breakfast at home, and they come to school hungry. And it can be a long time before lunch. So breakfast is important to satisfy that hunger. But we also know that breakfast is essential to improve learning. It leads to better behavior and improved health for our students, not just today, but throughout their life. We know that skipping breakfast and experiencing hunger can impact our students' ability to learn. It certainly does that for me, and I know that applies to you as well. I want to call your attention to these 3 important research briefs. And these are put out by FRAC, the Food Research and Action Center. And they have 3 research briefs on breakfast. And if you need support to work with your administration on why breakfast is so important, these are 3 great reports. And these substantiate the research that I'm going to talk about. So as we dive in and talk about breakfast for learning, we know that children who eat breakfast at school perform better on standardized tests than those students who skip breakfast or eat breakfast at home. I think that's fascinating. So it's not just the fact that the students had breakfast, but the breakfast that they're getting at school leads to better performance on standardized tests. I'd also make an argument that it's not just important on the day of the test, but it's important every school day. We see that student academic achievement increases, especially for math, when schools offer school breakfast programs. Students who participate in school breakfast show improved attendance, improved behavior, and improved academic performance, as well as fewer tardinesses. Providing breakfast to students improves their concentration, alertness, comprehension, memory, and learning. And bottom line, children who eat breakfast show improved cognitive function, attention, and memory, but not just while they're at school, but this will continue through adulthood as well. Common sense, we know breakfast is important for learning, but we also know that breakfast is important for health. We know that eating breakfast regularly has been linked to greater intake of fiber, calcium, iron, vitamin C, and other important vitamins and minerals, and lower intake of fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, and sodium. Children who participate in school breakfast are more likely to consume fruit and milk at breakfast than those that don't participate in breakfast. And we know that fruit and milk provide these important nutrients that I just talked about, such as vitamin C and calcium. Lower income children who eat school breakfast have better overall diet quality than those who eat breakfast elsewhere or skip breakfast. I just want to call out the photo here. This is a recipe that Chef Sam developed for the International Fresh Produce Association, and this is a stuffed sweet potato. We know that baked potato bars are popular at lunch. Well, this is a stuffed baked sweet potato that has apples and granola. So just a little twist on the baked potato bar. I think that is a fabulous idea for breakfast. So again, we know that breakfast improves learning, breakfast improves health, but we also know that breakfast improves behavior. We know that students show improved behavior and academic performance when they have breakfast. You know, you might say it's related to being hangry if the students don't have breakfast. There's improved attendance and decreased tardiness, and research has shown fewer disciplinary office referrals when students have breakfast. There's a positive impact on students' mental health with reductions in hyperactivity, anxiety, and depression when students have breakfast. This picture here is a recipe that we developed for the Washington Red Raspberry Commission. And this was raspberry nachos. So we took the waffle and kind of made nachos with it. And it's garnished with frozen red raspberries and a little garnish of chopped bacon, and then the yogurt raspberry sauce for dipping. Again, I think just another fun breakfast item. So eating breakfast relates to childhood obesity as well. And we know that obesity amongst children has accelerated in the last 3 decades. Children and adolescents who eat breakfast have more favorable weight-related outcomes in the short term and long-term than those who just skip breakfast. School breakfast participation is associated with a lower body mass index and lower probability of being overweight or obese. And this relates to the fact that the school meals are not just providing food, but you're training, you're teaching those students what a model breakfast and lunch look like. And we know that school meals are healthiest. I believe I introduced this at our first webinar, but I want to reiterate it for breakfast. This data is from the School Nutrition and Meal Cost Study published by the USDA in 2019. And it takes a look at how healthy breakfast and lunch is before the updated standards and after the updated standards. And they use what's called an HEI score, or a Healthy Eating Index score. And they found that for both breakfast and lunch, school meals are healthier after the updated standards. We see that lunch is slightly healthier, but breakfast did make significant gains. Bottom line, you're doing a great job with school meals. And these are the healthiest meals that the students are getting. But breakfast is lagging behind lunch. And we need to, for our students' benefit, to work at increasing breakfast participation. So, Chef Sam is up now with a recipe that will surely delight your students and help increase breakfast participation. For those of you who haven't met Chef Samantha Gasparo, she's executive chef of HealthySchoolRecipes.com. Previously, she was chef and nutrition coordinator for Wyndham Raymond Schools in Maine. She has a bachelor's degree in culinary nutrition from Johnson & Wales University. Welcome back, Chef Sam. We're delighted to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited, always excited to be here to talk food and talk school nutrition, two of my favorite topics. So today is also all about breakfast, which I love talking about because I love thinking about it and trying to see how school programs can work into making more in-house made items at breakfast, because it is always tricky with that time crunch to figure out how to do that. Definitely a bit of a puzzle. And I'm always interested in adding more vegetables at breakfast and really spreading some of that produce that we get, any of the DoD fresh, really into all meals, right? So that's what this is. This first recipe is a broccoli cheddar sheet tray omelet with a roasted cherry tomato sauce. And sounds complex, sounds like we have a lot going on, but quick count right here. I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ingredients for the whole thing. So that's not bad. And 2 of those are salt and pepper. So pretty easy and doable for school. So that's what we're thinking about here. So this is something that you'd want to have everything prepped out, but you don't want to make this ahead of time. While you can package and freeze eggs with the broccoli in the sheet tray, you probably don't want to do that just because the way the broccoli is going to kind of naturally move in the cold environment, then when it warms up, and that kind of contraction and expansion. So this is best just made fresh, but super easy. So what we're going to do here is we have some broccoli. You can use fresh. That's absolutely fine. You don't need to cook it before you use it. You can just use straight fresh broccoli florets. However, these are frozen. You can also use frozen broccoli florets. If you have those giant spears that you might be getting from your commodities or USDA food items, you might want to just cut those into little pieces, but you're going for florets. You don't want any child to have like a giant spear that they're trying to eat at breakfast. So everything should be sort of bite-sized, if not easily made into bite-size, because we know that once those students get that food, we want them to just start eating. That's how I envision all, definitely K through 5 being, no work, just sit down and start eating because they don't have much time. So I have my milk here, I have my frozen broccoli. One note on this is that we should thaw this frozen broccoli, because you don't want to put frozen broccoli into this omelet, because the frozen broccoli is going to have some ice crystals and water in it. So as it cooks, it's going to release some of that water, which could create pockets in your eggs. So it's best to thaw the broccoli. Fresh broccoli won't do that. You don't have to worry about that, but it's just that frozen broccoli. So what I do is take frozen broccoli, put it in a perforated pan, put it in a solid pan, and just put it in the fridge overnight and let it thaw. Any moisture will drip in, and then it's really easy and ready to use. So it's just something that you have to prep the night ahead. I have my milk right here, a little pepper, a little salt, and here I have my pasteurized liquid eggs. I'm a big fan of liquid egg because you can measure them out the night before. You don't have to worry about any of the safety hazards of pooled, cracked eggs. So with fresh eggs that you're cracking, you want to just crack those right before you're going to use them. But the pasteurized eggs, absolutely wonderful for this application, whether you're doing an omelet or whether you're doing just sheet pan egg patties. So I have my eggs right here measured. Next, I'm going to take my milk. I'm just going to pour it right in here. This container is more than big enough for me to whisk, so not to dirty a bowl, but just use what I got. I'm just going to kind of mix this together because these are the pasteurized liquid eggs. They've really already been kind of homogenized and whisked, so you just kind of are distributing that milk. Next, I have a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt just to bring out those flavors. Give those a little whisk. So I'm not telling you the exact quantities because you can find this for the quantities you need, and every recipe should be standardized to your kitchen, to the equipment. But this is something that you could easily do if you were making this for 50 portions. I would use a 1 gallon measuring container and you'll be able to fit all of this right in there. So again, you could easily kind of scale this up. Next, I'm going to take my sheet pan with a little spray and I'm going to give it a good spray here. No parchment on this because if you use parchment, what's going to happen is that liquid egg is going to sneak under the parchment and then you're going to kind of bake that into, the parchment's going to get baked into your eggs and it's going to be really hard to get out. So we don't want to do that. Next, I want to just take my broccoli and I'm going to distribute it right on the sheet pan. Try to get it evenly. You can move it around a little bit. Get it nice and even in pockets. If there's any huge pieces, I kind of break them up. You could go through this beforehand, pretty easy. Right, kind of get them nice and distributed. So next we have these on our sheet tray ready to go. And I have my egg mixture in a container that's just ready for me to pour, right? We always think about being more efficient and doing things efficiently, right? So we're not doing a lot of steps, we're not transferring. So we have our eggs right here that we're gonna pour right on. So the only thing with this is you want to be a little careful of is the sheet pan gets a little full. So as you're doing this, I would suggest doing this like fairly close to your oven so you're not walking across an entire kitchen with a sheet tray full of liquid, right? So you can see it looks beautiful, the colors, and this is the only thing that we're going to add to the top of this now is some cheddar cheese. And this is a combination that is really a favorite of our students, right? Broccoli and cheese. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to necessarily introduce new flavors as we're sort of navigating just introducing vegetables at breakfast. Go with the winners, right? Broccoli and cheese. We know that's a good combination. So I'm going to pop this right in my oven here. And then pull out my beautiful finished version. So the only thing about this version that's going to be a little different is I had to do it to kind of speed it up, is I added my cheese. So after it bakes and it's fully cooked, what you're going to do is just add your cheese to the top of it and pop it in the warmer. And this is what it's going to look like. So we have the nice cheesy topping to it, and it's ready to go. You can see it pulls away from the sides a little bit. This easily comes off. So you could do this with anything. You think your kids don't like broccoli and cheese? You could do a Denver style, right? You can do peppers and onions and ham and cheese. You could just do straight ham and cheese. You could use this sheet pan omelet technique with any frozen vegetables or anything that you have, any, ham, cheese, you name it, that you have in your freezer, fridge to use up. So really, this is a blank slate for you to, add any ingredients. So I'm going to move this off to the side while I quickly make this topping that goes with it. So this topping is super simple, just like the omelet is, right? Pretty easy to kind of just mix it all together. But here I have my cherry tomatoes. Now, cherry tomatoes are so great for creating sauces. You could use this sauce at lunch for topped on chicken or sandwiches, maybe a caprese sandwich, right? Offers a lot of versatility in your school nutrition kitchen that's packed with flavor. So these cherry tomatoes, nobody really wants to have them, right? We don't really want to mess with them, but they're great. We put them on the salad bar sometimes. But if there are some that are kind of going like, I don't know if they're going to make it out, we can cook them up and make a delicious sauce. So never throw those cherry tomatoes away. All we're going to do here is add a little bit of oil because we're going to roast these up, right? And that oil is going to create that barrier and protection for our tomatoes. Anytime we're roasting any vegetables, we want to have that oil on it, that little bit of fat just to protect it. So next I'm going to toss it. I'm not even adding any salt and pepper or anything like that because the cherry tomatoes with the omelet and the cheese, it's just going to blend together. If this was going to be a sauce, maybe you could add a pinch of salt and pepper just to bring out those natural flavors. But I also do this in a steam table pan and not on a sheet pan because this is what's going to happen is these cherry tomatoes are going to kind of blister in a lovely way and pop, and that's going to create a lot of juice, and that's the juice we want to use, right? That's what's going to be packed with the flavor. That sugary, the sugar from inside the tomatoes are going to roast up and caramelize and really amplify that flavor. So maybe it was okay raw, it had some flavor to it, but once we put this in the oven and we really let that heat get on these tomatoes, it's gonna create an even sweeter sauce. So this is one of my favorite tricks, especially to use with any of those tomatoes. This can definitely freeze. So let's say you have a whole bunch of cherry tomatoes that, I don't know, you didn't use, or they're not looking so great, some are getting a little wrinkly. Toss them in a pan, roast them up, and then you can just freeze them. You can put them in sauce, you can put them in soups, you can put them on sandwiches, you can put them on salad bars cold, some roasted tomato, add some feta cheese to it, right? The versatility is really amazing, and it's great to roast them because you don't have to do anything to them except for wash them, right? We're not pulling the core out, we're not coring them. So ease, that's what we want. We want easy, and we want lots of flavor development, and these guys have it. So this is gonna go right in the oven. Up here, and then I'm going to pull out the completed version, and you'll see here how we have that nice juice on the bottom, and then we have the nice blistery tomatoes. So this is really the beginning and the foundation of a delicious sauce, but perfect for the sheet tray omelet. So it will go right on top of this omelet. We have this perfect combination. The acidity from the tomatoes balances out that savory, cheesy broccoli and cheddar omelet for a delicious breakfast or breakfast sandwich. You can put it all together, let the student choose how they're going to eat it. I'll show you the plated demonstration at the end, but for now, we'll have you rate this recipe.
Great. Thanks, Chef Sam. Tell us what you think about the broccoli cheddar sheet tray omelet with roasted tomatoes. Are you likely to use it? Might give it a try? Unlikely to use it? Good chance that it'll work? Definitely will be a hit. As Chef Sam mentioned, there are so many different ways that you could season the sheet tray omelet. My favorite is in fact the broccoli cheddar, but you can do so many different toppings with it. Okay, the poll is ready to close, and we see that 68% of you say might give it a try, 21% said good chance that it'll work, 4% said definitely will be a hit, and 7% said unlikely to use this recipe. We started talking about the sheet tray omelet right after the pandemic, when the supply chain was really challenging, and we couldn't always get omelets. And one of our techniques for a more efficient kitchen system is what we call core and more, or cross-utilization of ingredients. And so we like to think about how we can use ingredients in multiple ways. And this is a great way to utilize eggs in different ways. I hear my camera's not up, so let me click on it again and see if that'll bring it up. Okay, great. Sorry about that. The light was green, but it didn't come up. Thank you so much. Sorry, it wasn't up before. So anyhow, I want to get back to the cross-utilization. So rather than getting in maybe frozen pasteurized eggs, as well as maybe round egg patties, as well as omelets and different types of eggs, you can get in just the frozen pasteurized eggs and make your own egg patties or make your own omelet. And you can expand the omelet fillings and utilize some of those local farm-to-school products. Great. I want to dive now into the breakfast meal pattern, and I'm going to specifically call out protein. But first, I want to talk about the breakfast meal pattern. So at lunch, we know that you have 5 components in your meal pattern. You have fruit, vegetable, grain, protein, and dairy. And we know that this is modeled after the USDA My Plate. At breakfast, you need to offer 3 components: fruit, grain, and dairy, or fluid milk. Those are the 3 components that you must offer. But as Sam mentioned, we think that vegetables and protein are important components as well. I love having vegetables offered at breakfast for a number of reasons. One, because I know that vegetables are packed with nutrients. I also know that this is a great way to introduce vegetables to students and really kind of expand their repertoire of vegetables. Particularly if you're getting a lot of farm-to-school vegetables, this is just another way of serving vegetables. And then third, I think we need to shift from a sweet-focused breakfast to a savory-focused breakfast as we work to cut back on sugars in breakfast. And vegetables will help us achieve that. So we can offer vegetables in place of fruits. We can also offer protein in place of one of the grains at breakfast. And we know that we have to first serve a grain, but then you can serve a protein in place of the second grain. And I love serving one grain and one protein at breakfast. So why is that important? Why is why is protein important at breakfast? Well, first I want to take a look at a typical school breakfast menu. This isn't yours. I didn't want to call out your breakfast. This is, in fact, a breakfast menu close to where I live. And this was for the last week in January. As you look at the breakfast menu, you'll see that it's pretty high in added sugar and a lot of pre-prepared, individually wrapped items. Now, I know labor is a challenge in the morning as you're just getting into school and students are lining up. But Chef Sam in the demonstration talked about how you could streamline the efficiency of making this breakfast item and how we can shift to assembling the ingredients the day before to facilitate that breakfast production. If we look at the top 10 sources of added sugar at school breakfast, and this data is from the USDA School Nutrition and Meal Cost Study, the same one I had referred to earlier today. And if we look at it, we see that many of the items on the menu I just shared with you are top sources of added sugar at breakfast. whether it be from the flavored fat-free chocolate milk, the sweetened ready-to-eat breakfast cereals, syrups, frostings, and other condiments, muffins and sweetbreads, or toaster pastries, sweet crackers, cinnamon buns, or sweetened yogurt. So we have a lot of added sugar, not just occasionally, but each day the menus seem to be heavy. And that's one reason why I think it's important that we shift to adding more savory items at breakfast. We could break away from that high sweet breakfast. But protein at breakfast is also important. A typical protein distribution for an American diet, and this is across all ages, is a little bit of protein at breakfast, a little bit more at lunch, and then a lot of our protein at dinner. Where the ideal scenario would be an even distribution of protein throughout all meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And why is that important? And why is protein important? And why is protein at breakfast important? Well, we know that protein is important to build muscle and other body tissues. It also helps maintain hormones and enzymes. And we know that protein helps increase glucose control and helps to even out our glucose absorption throughout our blood. And for our students, we know that protein helps diminish hunger because it gives us that feeling of satiety, or gives us that feeling of fullness. Now, our body is only able to use so much protein at any given time. And we don't have an efficient way to store excess protein. So when most of our protein happens at the nighttime, then that doesn't leave a lot of protein for the morning after we've been utilizing it throughout the night. We don't have protein in the morning to help perform those important functions. So it's important that we have protein at every meal, but particularly important for our students. Now, in the beginning, I mentioned that eggs were really an affordable meat alternate at breakfast, but there's other proteins that we can add at breakfast, other meat and meat alternates. Maybe a lean breakfast sausage, maybe a nut butter, like a peanut butter or a sunflower seed butter, yogurt, cheese, and beans are great protein to add at breakfast as well. So I want to encourage you, as you think about the items that you offer at breakfast, that we think about how we can add protein to our breakfast meals. Let's bring Chef Sam up again for our second recipe demonstration. This one is a great way to use a leftover product. Chef Sam, as we mentioned, is executive chef of HealthySchoolRecipes.com, and she's contributed so many great recipes to that website and really helps us think outside of the box. I also, while we're bringing Chef Sam up, I want to encourage you to ask us some questions. So we've had just a couple questions in the question box, but if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please type them into the question box. I also want to invite you to add some ideas in the question box for toppings that you would include for a sheet tray omelet. So I know you were thinking about the sheet tray omelet. What are some toppings that you have in mind for that? Great. Welcome back, Chef Sam. I'm glad to see you. I'm going to take down my video so that we can do the next recipe demonstration. Just a second, Chef Sam. I'm not getting your audio, so just a second. We'll see if we can't correct that. Okay. Are you? I don't hear your audio, Chef Sam. I'm told it was on. It is on. Okay, apparently it is on. I just can't hear you. Nope, sorry, Sam. Nobody else can hear you either. Just give us a minute and we'll try to rectify the audio situation. Bear with us a moment, folks, if you don't mind. I'm going to bring my video back up. Can you switch to your other feed if possible, Sam, for the audio? So while we're working on Chef Sam's audio, I want to invite, oh, there it's back, Sam.
Is it back now?
Oh, it is. We can hear you now. Great.
Back in business. I don't know what I did, but here I am. So, all right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. The BLT rice breakfast bowl is a great way that keeps breakfast simple and gives students the BLT flavors that they love. So we have our BLT is going to consist of some bacon here. Either you can do chopped up bacon, you can get your bacon bits. We also have some wilted spinach. You can easily use fresh spinach if you want and chop it up. We have some cherry tomatoes here, and we'll have rice as the base. So it's a delicious rice bowl, and then we're gonna make a really delicious sauce. So I'm gonna start with the sauce. So this is just the concept of taking kind of +1, right? So you take a base, whether it's mayonnaise, sour cream, plain yogurt, ranch dressing, and you can add to it, right? So I'm gonna make a sriracha ranch. We have our ranch dressing here. I have a little bit of sriracha and I'm gonna add it. You could do this with anything. You could add barbecue sauce to ranch and you have barbecue, right? You could have hot sauce to ranch and you'd have, you know, a hot ranch, a spicy ranch. So instead of buying all of those individual products, just use your base or buy your base or make your base and then add your toppings to it, because you're in control of the level of spice, or you're in control of kind of the nutrition of it and what's being added to it. So here we have our sriracha ranch, just like that. And then you can kind of add to your condiments to really diversify the condiments you're adding for the different flavors for your students. So this is a nice sriracha ranch that we're going to have on our bowl. So I'm going to put that off to the side, nice and easy. And then we have our spinach, our bacon all ready to go. So you want to have everything prepped out. And I am going to use some fresh tomatoes here. These are cherry tomatoes again. I do really love these. And you know what, actually, as I was doing this, I was like, what would be even better on this would be the roasted tomatoes I just made. So I'm going to make a bowl with those on it too, just to show you the versatility and because that's kind of speaking to me, and I think that would be delicious. So you could also kind of use that to really develop the flavor. But I want to show you this easy trick to cut your cherry tomatoes. So you want to take lids. These are just Canberra lids that you can easily use. And what we want to do is have it kind of close to you, right? So you can kind of look at the front screen here, because I'm going to go a little bit off that, because you want it to be close, because I'm going to end up taking my knife, and so I don't want to be working in the middle of the cutting board because my hand's going to get in the way. Kind of want to be working on the edge of the table. Next, you're just going to put a little bit of tomatoes here. If you have a bigger lid, you can do more tomatoes. It's really up to you. This is a really fun trick to practice at home, but in school, it really makes a big difference, because you don't want to sit there and be, you know, one tomato at a time, right? We don't want to be working one item at a time. So I can put a couple more in here. So you don't want to get lids that are bigger than your knife, because then your knife isn't going to go all the way through. So you want to kind of cap it at that, right? And next I'm going to add this right here. And I'm gonna slightly push down with my hand. I'm not gonna push down really hard because I don't wanna pop these beautiful tomatoes here, but I'm gonna push down firm enough that they're not gonna move on me. And then I'm gonna take my knife, get it nice and close to the edge. I'm gonna take my knife. I always like to see what I'm doing first. I like to inspect it, know what I'm getting myself into. You want a nice sharp knife, or you can use a serrated knife. And then you have those ones kind of kicked out the side. I wasn't pushing hard enough, but you have your beautiful halved tomatoes, right? So they come off just like this. So don't fill it up too much, but you have your beautiful halved cherry tomatoes, and you can do a bunch of them at once. So that's a really great trick to use this as you get comfortable doing it. Make sure you have a nice sharp knife, and it's a really quick way to be not working one at a time. And as you do it more and more, you can get efficient in the in your station and in your kitchen. So next, we have our cooked rice. Now this is hot cooked rice, so you just want to steam the rice. You can also cook the rice the night before and just have it on sheet trays, so you're really quickly heating it up in your steamer combi oven right as you need it. So you don't have to do it, you don't have to be cooking your brown rice the morning up, right? You can easily, or if right when you get in, you have everything all plated up. So thinking about how to be efficient and kind of do this ahead of time. Also, this is a great concept because you're giving students the bowl of rice, but they can top their own. They could add the toppings, right? You could have wilted spinach, you could have fresh spinach, you could have bacon, you could have sausage. I have a scrambled egg that's gonna go on this for some added protein, right? So this is really a build your own bar. This is what we want our students to do. We want our students to customize the flavor because we know that if they customize it, they are more likely to eat it. So really, we were having a conversation about this the other day, that salad bars are really don't have to be just for salads, right? Use them at breakfast, use them at lunch. Consider them topping bars, the customization bars, right? Doesn't have to be just your full reimbursable salad. So I'm gonna add a little bit of spinach here. I'm gonna measure out a quarter cup of spinach, and then I have my nice halved cherry tomatoes, right? A quarter cup to get that half cup of vegetable. If you're using fresh spinach, you just want to take that into account, right? That you need to add a little bit more. So always take a recipe if you're going to tweak it in-house to use fresh spinach instead of wilted spinach. Make sure that you're getting the correct quantities so you can standardize it and get the correct crediting for that as well. So really important to take all recipes and any adaptations and standardize them to what is best for your kitchen. But wilted or fresh spinach can be used here. You just need a little bit more fresh spinach. And next I'm going to add some scrambled eggs. And then I have my bacon that you can sprinkle right on top, or you can put it right in the middle. Nice little pile of bacon. That's a way to sell it, right? Our students love bacon. And then we're going to take a little bit of the sauce and we're just going to drizzle it right on top. So we have this nice sriracha ranch to balance out all these delicious vegetables. So that's what we're thinking. How do we offer vegetables at breakfast? So I'm going to build one more so I can show you. So we have our rice base here. I'm going to add my quarter cup of spinach. And it's always a good idea to measure out when you're building bowls, especially if you have a lot of, if you're going to be building a lot of bowls. Get all your bowls lined up on your cutting board, right? Everything is within reach of me right now, right? I'm not going to have to go here. You want to have all of your ingredients out and ready for you to assemble. If it's temperature sensitive things such as this and you're building a lot of them, spread it out on the table. Have many hands coming to help you. Many hands will really keep your food hot and out of that temperature danger zone for a long time. So it's all hands on deck with bowls. While they're super popular, they also can be a little tedious. That's why that idea of top your own and let the students do it is a really great option, because they're sort of taking that load off and you're just maybe plating up the rice or, you know, the egg or one or two ingredients, and let them top the rest. Give them a demonstration bowl so you can show them this is what it could look like, and then they can kind of take it from there and build it as they would like. But having that ingredient measured, so you know, not every time you're going to be scooping and measuring a quarter of a cup, right? Kind of know what a quarter cup looks like. You have a demonstration cup that you can look at, and you know that that's what's going on that's going to go on it each time. So for this bowl, I'm actually going to take some of my roasted tomatoes here, because I think that would be delicious. That would add a nice pop of flavor to this. And then I have some of my scrambled egg here, which I forgot a spoon for, but we're going to add a little bit of scrambled egg. And then we have the bacon, which I'll put right here. And then instead of drizzling the sauce on top, you could easily cup the sauce. So we'll have the cup sauce right here. You could have a squeezy bottle if you're really trying to limit how much they're getting of this ranch. You know, the students can really love on some ranch, but you can also serve it like this, kind of dig that in there. So you have that beautiful presentation as well. Really, either one would work depending on how you're going to serve it. So we have this beautiful BLT rice breakfast bowl. You can have your fresh tomatoes, you can utilize those roasted tomatoes, but now we'll have you rate this recipe.
Thanks, Chef Sam. Tell us what you think. How likely are you to use this recipe? Unlikely to use it? Might give it a try? Good chance that it'll work for your students? Definitely will be a hit. And again, just some important points here. One, it's a great way to utilize leftover brown rice. Number two, it is a savory hot breakfast item, helping us move away from that overly sweet breakfast. Third point, you can portion the egg and the rice and have that hot, and then allow the students on the salad bar to add topping. Okay, we're going to close the poll, and we see that 64% of you might give it a try. 8% said good chance that it'll work. 4% said definitely will be a hit. And 24% said unlikely to use this recipe. If you said unlikely, just put a note in the question box and let me know what you're thinking. Maybe you're at an elementary school and this might be a little more difficult for your students. Or maybe it's just a stretch of an idea. Rice at breakfast, that might be a little more challenging for us to consider. But again, it's a great way to move away from the overly sweet breakfast. So before we bring Chef Sam back up to look at her final display, I want to do some key takeaways. Key takeaways for today. First of all, I hope that you feel how important breakfast is to our students. And wherever you're at with participation, I challenge you to increase your participation through the rest of the school year and going into next school year. Key takeaway number 2, breakfast protein is important at breakfast. We know how important protein is, but it's important throughout the day. Key takeaway 3, many meat and meat alternates can be served at breakfast. There's a picture here of a peanut butter toast with banana, using peanut butter or another nut butter on toast. You can even do a toast bar using your salad bar. And then finally, consider adding more vegetables at breakfast from a nutrition standpoint, but also from a taste standpoint, adding that savory element. And then third, helping our students consume more vegetables throughout the day. So I'd like you to think about how you're going to take this back to your kitchen. How can you add more vegetables to your breakfast menu? How can you increase breakfast participation? And then what meat or meat alternates can you add to your breakfast menu? Okay, good. I want you to think about that. Let's launch our next poll question before we bring Chef Sam back. And I'm curious, I'd like to know what % of your students eat breakfast at school? Is it less than 25? Is it 26 to 50%? Between 51 and 75? More than 76? Or we don't serve breakfast? So let us know how many of your students eat breakfast at school? Christy commented that we're still feeding kids in classrooms and the hallway. Actually, breakfast in the classroom is one of the best ways that you can serve breakfast. And we're going to be talking about breakfast service models in next month's webinar. So we're closing this poll up, and we see that a third of you are serving between 51 and 75%. That is a good start. That is excellent. I'd like to know who's serving more than 76%. Raise your hand in the using the hand raise icon and let me know who's serving more than 76%. Then we see that 42% are serving between 26 and 50. This is a group that has a great opportunity to increase breakfast participation. And then 17% are serving less than 25%. So raise your hand if you're amongst that more than 76% group. I'd love to know who's doing a great job with breakfast. Great. Let's bring Chef Sam back up now, and we're going to take a look at her final dishes. I also want to invite you to think about any questions that you might have. Welcome back, Chef Sam. I'm hoping that we have, I think we do have audio. Great. What do you have for us here?
Great. So I hope that everyone can hear me. And I just like to show you the pan here to say the proof is in that it slides right off, and it's so nice. Pretty easy to clean. Just got to get a good spray on there, and that omelet really that egg really comes right off. So really versatile, like Kathy talked about, too, for just straight egg patties. You know, all you'd have to do is season the pasteurized egg and pour it right on there. More affordable, and those are definitely freezable that you could pull out. So here would be the boat option if you wanted a nice hot breakfast on the go, or if you had a hot box. Obviously, the hot breakfasts are more likely to be served from the line versus, depending on your setup, if you're serving from the hallway or in the classroom. But for sure, you could keep this rice bowl nice and hot for the classroom. This is another option, and I really like this option. This container is one of my favorites to use because it's an oven-safe container. If you wanted to actually portion this egg out, you could bake it in here. So this is a container that you can bake in. This is a 10 ounce. They come in 8 ounce too, and it can go in the warmer in the oven, so you could just hold this in the oven, you know, and be able to bake in it, which I think gives it a lot of flexibility. You could also use this type of container for quiches or buffalo chicken dip. There's so many options even outside of breakfast that this is one of my favorite containers that schools could use. That is a little underrated and not everybody knows about. So I like to talk about it a lot because I like that bake in there and call it good, right? So here's the breakfast bowl we made with the sauce in the middle, which I think is great. Put a lid on this and that, and you could serve it warm to your students. Just hold it, and it's okay if that ranch gets a little warm. It doesn't have to be crisp cold. Just in transport, you don't want that ranch to get warm, but if it's in transport, that's okay. Next, you have this plated version. So lots of options for your students. This is actually a recipe that's been served at a couple schools in Maine, and the students have really enjoyed it. Something different for breakfast that really hits that savory spots with their favorite things like bacon and eggs. You can put any toppings on here too.
Great. Thanks, Chef Sam. Those are terrific items. I don't have any questions from folks, and we're at the top of the hour, so we're going to close today's webinar out. I want to thank Chef Sam for some great, easy ideas for school breakfast. I'd like to ask all of you to take a moment to complete the evaluation survey on your way out. That feedback is important to us, and it helps us prepare for future webinars. You'll be receiving your attendance certificate in an automated email this afternoon. And I hope to see you all at the next webinar on March 12th as we talk about grab-and-go breakfasts that are going to be perfect for breakfast in the classroom. Thanks everybody for joining us. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Thanks, Sam.